I recently reviewed the Folio Society edition of Schindler's Ark by Thomas Keneally. Another book on the subject of the Holocaust that I read at the same time was this one here. This is If This Is a Man by Primo Levi, also from the Folio Society. As a Folio Society edition, it comes in a slipcase. On this occasion, it's a plain paper-covered affair, so nothing too remarkable about that. And then within we have this book, which is bound in blue buckram cloth, which wraps all the way around the book. And it's printed here on the front board with this abstract design. We have a barbed wire style motif, and here we see an internee who appears to be in some degree of anguish. That design wraps around onto the rear board, so it's a wraparound design. And then here on the spine, we have printed in silver the author's name, Primo Levi, and the title, If This Is a Man. It's a Folio Society edition as usual. The binding is sewn, and we have head and tail bands which are striped in black or blue and white. So that's the exterior design. We open the book up, we have end papers which are in this powder blue colour, and then after the half title we come to the title spread, and we see here, first of all, we have the title, which, like other display elements in the book, is said in Helvetica, and then facing the title is a frontispiece, which is the first of our illustrations, which are etchings by Jane Joseph. One thing I find interesting about these illustrations is that they have this sort of scratchy, sketchy quality, which reminds me a little bit of the kind of drawings you would see made in secret by internees in these types of camp and then smuggled out. And also that sort of scratchy primal quality to the illustrations really accentuates the sort of uncomfortable circumstances which many of them depict. Here we can see a figure who's clearly not in a very good place. We have the production details here on the copyright page. So the main text is set in Minion. As I said, the display is Helvetica, and it's printed on this occasion on Lesabo paper. It was printed in Cornwall in England. Here's a list of the illustrations. I should say the book is quite generously illustrated. And then we have this introduction, which was written by Frederick Raphael, and it's a very well constructed introduction. It's very well informed about not only the work of Levi, but other authors who were writing Holocaust memoirs, particularly Italian authors, and how Levi's tale fits into that overall context. And then we enter the book itself. We have the author's preface. The opening words of the preface are, "It was my good fortune to be deported to Auschwitz," which are not words one expects to encounter very often. But Levi then goes on to explain how it was that he arrived there fairly late in the war, and under circumstances that ultimately would facilitate his survival, and one of only few, very sadly. And then the book begins with the recounting of Levi's capture. So he was in Italy, he was with a group of partisans and was betrayed and then captured, sent first to an internment camp in Italy, and then, like so many others, loaded into freight wagons and shipped away to a concentration camp. In fact, Levi was sent to a concentration camp at Auschwitz, but he was sent in particular to the Monowitz camp, which was a forced labor camp built around a factory at Buna, which was a factory that had been built by IG Farben with the intention of producing synthetic rubber. And Levi, like many others, was sent there to form part of the forced labor force. So I will leaf through the book here, and we will see some of those etchings as we go. In the meantime, perhaps I could talk a little bit about the book itself. And I'm going to say right from the outset that this is, without a shadow of a doubt, the single most powerful book that I've read in my life. One expects books with tales of harrowing events like that of the Holocaust, which is perhaps the most harrowing of recent memory, to be powerful, but the fashion in which Levi has crafted his story, the way he tells of events, really elevates that to another level. So Levi's style is a very detached one. In the afterword to the book, he says he sees his role as one of witness rather than judge, which means he's not out to make value judgments about what happened. He's there merely to recount the events he saw as he saw them. He leaves the reader to draw their own conclusions. And that makes for, in a way, a fairly sterile account of events on occasion. But the matter-of-fact way in which he recounts those events really brings home some of the appalling details. I mean, of course, the big picture of what happened in the Holocaust is by now widely known, I think fairly well understood. But the small details are the things that really bring home just what an atrocious experience the whole thing must have been. So to give you a bit of a flavour of the kinds of things that I'm talking about, fairly early in the book, Levi recounts how one would be obliged to go to the washroom to clean oneself. It was imperative during this period that you're very careful to keep at all times your clothes, which are essentially no better than rags, trapped between your knees to ensure that none of the other inmates take the opportunity to steal them and leave you essentially naked in the winter mud. And so one is familiar with the idea that this is a camp run by a bunch of SS criminals and their collaborators, but the fact that even your fellow internees would at any opportunity betray you to slightly increase their own chance of survival, it sort of brings home just what a horribly inhospitable environment this was in every possible respect. And there are many sort of relatively small anecdotes of that nature that really just bring home the horrific nature of these concentration camp environments in a way that's very powerful. I found at times this book would weigh on my mind in the night. It would make it difficult to sleep. So extremely glad to have read the book and to have learned so much from Levi, even though it was a very moving experience to have done so. And so this is one of these books that I would recommend to everybody, not necessarily because I think they will enjoy reading the book, but because I think it's the kind of book that many people should have read. The Folio Society edition is fairly standard by Folio Society's usual output, but a nice edition sure enough. I should say that there is a sequel to this book, also by Primo Levi, called The Truce. In that book, he picks up at the liberation of Auschwitz, and in The Truce, he recounts his journey from Auschwitz back to Italy. I haven't read that book yet, but having read this one, I'm very much enthused to do so. And so you can look forward to a review of that book on this channel as well at some point in the future. But for now, this was If This Is a Man by Primo Levi, and it comes very much recommended.